Baldur's Gate 3 has taken the world by storm. And I am pretty sure that a lot of you guys, like me, are book lovers, but also might dabble into some video games because we're geeks. And that's what we do. So today I'm going to be giving you some book recommendations based off of your favorite Baldur's Gate 3 character. Let's get started. I have been swept away in this fandom, okay? When I was told that Baldur's Gate 3 is not only RPG, but it's very heavily based off of Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a hot vampire that you can romance, well, I was sold. And I am obsessed. And you best believe that I am romancing that character. I actually ended up Googling different books where like the main character reminds them of Astarion, and I could not find it anywhere. So I was like, you know what? I will do it myself then. I ended up posting like a Facebook post, and then people gave me recommendations on there. And then from there I was like, okay, I have to do this with like every companion now. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the main 6 companions. We are going to be tackling Astarion, Karlach, Lazeal, Wyll, Gale, and last but certainly not least is Shadowheart. We are going to be talking about different book recommendations that kind of go with these characters. I'm going to be giving you 2 book recommendations for each of these characters, but I will also be doing shorts where I give an extra book recommendation, so you guys can check out the shorts as well. And if you guys like this video, I will continue and do a part 2 and 3 because there's so many characters. If you are like me and you have romanced Astarion, you are probably a romantasy girly. You are probably a enemies to lovers girly. You are probably a touch her and die girly. You are a girly or guy or person that just loves the morally gray character, okay? And so I have 2 book recommendations for you friends, besties, because if you are romancing Astarion, we are true-minded souls. The first book recommendation that I have for you is A Court of Sugar and Spice by Rebecca F. Kennedy. This is a book that I am actually currently reading right now on my Kindle, and it is so good. It is a Nutcracker retelling. We are following these 2 sisters named Clara and Louisa. So Clara and Louisa are very different. Okay, we have Clara, who is very shy. She likes to keep to herself. And then we have Louisa, who is very like outgoing, such a social butterfly. She knows, she has that confidence. She knows that she is the it girl. She goes from like a guy to guy. She is a playa queen. And we follow them as they basically move into their godfather's house, and he's like this like really creepy man. He's this famous inventor, and then they see that he has these like wooden people, and they're like, ooh, these wooden people are so awesome, oh my gosh, look at them. And then Clara, being like, you know, the like shy but like very introverted smart girl, she's like, there's something wrong with these, like I don't understand the science behind this. And then it turns out it's because it's not science, and this man has been collecting these fairy creature beings from another world and making them like his servants. And we know this because Clara, is it Clara or Louise? One of the sisters ends up accidentally like cutting her finger and like bleeding on one of these like nutcrackers, and it brings him to life. And then they go to his world and try to basically save him because he is the prince, and to save his kingdom because his kingdom is being overtaken by like these rat people. And along the way we meet his cousin, the sugar plum fairy named Finn. And Finn is Astarion. Finn is Astarion, like to the core, 100,000%. This is Astarion rewritten in this story. They are exactly alike. The things that come out of this man's mouth, the way that he dresses, just everything about him is Astarion. So if you are a girl that has romanced Astarion, you are going to love this book, and you are going to love the Sugar Plum Fairy. There is a lot of spice. There is a lot of smut. There is enemies to lovers. You have 2 different love stories going on. with the Prince and Louisa, and then you have Clara and Finn, the Sugar Plum Fairy. And it's so good, okay? I'm like a little bit more than halfway through this book, and I am obsessed because in my mind, the Sugar Plum Fairy is Astarion. Astarion, however you want to say his name. That's him. And it's so good, and I highly recommend. The next book that I'm going to recommend is, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury by Mrs. Sarah J. Maas. This also gives me Astarion vibes. Why? Why? Well, I mean, okay, I know the Feyre darling thing and how Astarion calls you darling, but also the story behind it. Like, if you guys know Rhysand's story, you guys know that he was basically Amarantha's, you know, little peasant, little special person, which is pretty much what Astarion had to do. Like, he was the one that would like bring the people in with his like beautiful good looks and alluring and charmingness. He was basically like the one that would do the dirty work, and he was kind of forced into being this spawn unexpectedly, this vampire spawn, which is basically what happened to Rhysand. He didn't expect to go down this route. He didn't expect to be Amarantha's peasant, Amarantha's plaything, but that's just happened to be the way that the cookie crumbled. Now Rhysand tried to do everything to get out of it. Same thing with Astarion and, you know, him getting out of his whole situation. I think that the stories have a lot of like, not a lot, but they do have similarities, and I mean, you have a few things that kind of remind me of like Rhysand and Astarion. So this is another one that I am recommending if you are romancing Astarion or if you really enjoy Astarion. Next, we have the barbarian baddie, the sexy, literally hot, on fire hot Karlach. So here are some book recommendations that I am recommending for Karlach. The first book recommendation is going to be Throne of Glass by Miss Sarah J. Maas. So you might be asking me, why? Why this book? Selena Sardathian, our main character in this book, she basically is forced to work in these like salt mines and basically do this like hard labor that she didn't want to do, which is a lot kind of like what Karlach had to do. Like, she was stuck in like was it the Nine Hills? She was stuck in something, okay? She was stuck and she was very unhappy, and then she finally got out. Plus Karlach is like the fun one. Do you get what I mean? Like, I feel like she's like very, I love her like the things that she says. I love the things that comes out of her mouth. She's very optimistic, and I feel like Selena Sardathian had like those witty comebacks as well. Like Astarion has them as well, but Karlach has them as well. Also, if you guys know the series, you guys know that there's fire powers involved in this, and Karlach obviously is on fire. So there's that. So that is why I want to recommend Throne of Glass for fans of Karlach. Next is going to be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Why? This is strictly pretty much for like vibes. Karlach has very like chill, optimistic sort of vibes. We have a Dungeons and Dragons based video game. We have a Dungeons and Dragons low stakes themed book. We follow our main character Viv, who is an orc, and she basically has lived the barbarian life, much like Karlach, and she's ready to just like settle down and open a coffee shop. And that's what she does. That's what she does. She fulfills her dream and she opens up a coffee shop and tries to just sell coffee to a place that has never even heard of coffee. And it's very like low stakes, very much cozy fantasy, not too many crazy things happen. Like I said, this is more strictly just for vibes. And this is a good one. This is a good one. So if you like Karlach's vibes, you will like Legends and Lattes. Now, if you guys are a fan of the Lizard Queen, she's not a lizard, but if you guys are a fan of Lazeal, these are the book recommendations that I have for you. The first one is going to be The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, because Lazeal is a very much like, at heart, she is like a warrior. Okay, like that is, she lives and breathes being a warrior. And The Poppy War is about our main character Rin, and she also really wants to be a warrior. She is different from the rest, right? So she is sent to this military academy that she always wanted to go to, but because she's sort of like the underdog, she is very mistreated. And then she finds out that she has this power that she didn't know she had. This power that nobody else has. And they are on this verge for a third Poppy War, which is like this huge war that is going to go on, and Rin is pretty much the only one that can save them with her new discovered shamanic power. And but the only thing is that when she uses this power, it might turn her a little inhuman, kind of like the Lithid powers. Not exactly, not really, but at the same time, like in that way, yes. So that is why I would recommend the Poppy War, because it very much gives me Lazeal vibes. How she is, her very being, her being a warrior to like the core, gives me Poppy War vibes. The second one that I would recommend if you are a fan of Lazeal is The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. Again, this one specifically is strictly for vibes, because The Hunger Games, we follow our main character Katniss, who is very like blunt. Okay, she's very like blunt, she's very to the point. She is on survival mode, much like Lazeal as well. She doesn't see the I don't want to say like beauty of things, but she doesn't see any more than the survival skills that are necessary, very much like Katniss in The Hunger Games. And obviously, if you guys don't know, The Hunger Games, we basically follow our main character Katniss, who is in District 12, and the world is basically split into 12 districts, and every single year they grab 2 kids from the ages of 12 to 18 to compete in these Hunger Games to the death. And only one person can win, and Katniss is from the last district, and she is a survivor. She is again, a warrior at heart, and she very much gave me Lazeal vibes as well. So I would recommend those 2 if you are a fan of Lazeal. Now let us move on to The Blade of Frontiers. Wyll. Okay, so the first book that I want to recommend if your favorite character is Wyll, or if you romanced Wyll in Baldur's Gate 3, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Why? Why this book? Okay, I haven't read this one yet. I haven't. But I do know what it's about, and it gives me Wyll vibes in the sense that our main character, Addie LaRue, basically sells her soul to a bad person. And now she's under contract with that person, and she doesn't realize that she made a mistake until she does it, and then she realizes it's a mistake. And so yes, now she's immortal, but now nobody remembers her, and she realizes that this did more harm than good. Basically like Wyll with Mizora as well. Gives me those same vibes. That is why I am recommending The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Again, this one is strictly for vibes, but we also have another one, and that is King of Scars by Leah Bardugo. Okay, so the headline for King of Scars by Leah Bardugo is literally face your demons or feed them. Like, if that does not say Wyll to you, I don't know what does. In this story, we are following our main character, Nikolai, and he is a young king, and he basically will do everything and anything he possibly could for his people. Just like Wyll and the Blade of Frontiers, he wants to be the hero of the story. And just like Nikolai in the story as well. And he basically wants to help his people on the verge of war, and he is amongst other companions, including a monk, a Grisha general, and together they basically go on this journey to save his people. And this story, Nikolai's story, very much reminds me of Wyll's backstory as well. And so if you are a Wyll romancer, or Wyll is your favorite character, I highly recommend this one. Next is for my Gale people. So Gale is the powerful wizard of the story. He had that whole backstory where he was like the lover of this like powerful goddess, and he became like super powerful as well. And so for this one, I have one recommendation that is actually a pre-release. Like, this book hasn't even come out yet, but the stories just it's vibes so much with like Gale's story, and it is called The Last One by Rachel Housel Hall. And this is basically about a girl who forgets who she is, right? And she has this like power, and every time she uses her powers, she discovers a new power. she becomes more and more and more and more powerful. The thing is, every time she uses that power, even though she becomes more powerful, she also takes one step closer to death and basically like destructing. Same thing with Gale when he has to like consume these like magical artifacts in order to keep the power going, and eventually he's just gonna like implode. So that really reminds me of like Gale's story, Gale's vibes. So that is one recommendation that I highly recommend to check out. I believe it's coming out on my birthday, July 23rd, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I only remember because it's my birthday. But so there's that one. Next is Fall of Wrath and Ruin by Jennifer L. Armentrout. That is another recommendation that I have for my Gale. Why do I keep saying Gal? Gale fans. Correction. This book is called Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Again, this one is strictly just for vibes. This one gives me very much like a Gale vibes. The opening line is literally, she lives by her intuition, he feeds on her pleasure. So kind of like what was going on with like him and this like goddess, where he was basically like his lover and her lover, and like she just basically just ate his pleasure. Do you get what I mean? Without like, I don't know, I think she was like promising him something, if I'm not mistaken. It just gives me the vibes. It just gives me the vibes. And in this story, we follow our main character. Her name is Callista. And Callista is basically, she tags along with this like baron who protects her. To reciprocate, she gives him information. And then Callista tags along and she meets this like prince. And this prince, basically, she gets the sign from her intuition, her inner knowing, saying that yes, this prince is going to be fun for a while, but in the end he is going to be your downfall, much like this goddess in Gale. So that is why it reminded me of that. It gave me those vibes, so that is why I am recommending this one for fans of Gale. Now let us move on to, last but certainly not least, our cleric bestie, Shadowheart. Did you know that Shadowheart is like the most romance character? I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know that. I wasn't expecting Shadowheart to be the most romance character. I literally thought it was gonna be Astarion, but Astarion isn't even up there. He's not even up there. Like 57% of the fan base romance Shadowheart. I mean, I get it. She's like the safe choice. You know what I mean? But is she the fun choice? No. So if you guys romance Shadowheart, if you are one of the 57% of people that have romance Shadowheart, or you are just a big fan of Shadowheart, then I have two book recommendations for you. The first one is going to be Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. Yes, if you guys have watched my reading blog, I did a whole reading blog for this book among other books. I wasn't a big fan of this one, but the story just reminds me of Shadowheart so much. I just had to mention it, and it does have good reviews online, so it wasn't personally for me, but it might be for you. In this story, we follow Hessa, and Hessa is a Iangi, and she is basically a priestess, a lot like our lady here, our Shadowheart, our Lady of Shar here. She's a priestess for this goddess named Eong, and Eong is basically kind of like Athena. You know, she's like this badass like war goddess, and same thing with like Shadowheart, and she's like really obsessed with Shar. In this story, Hessa ends up doing something bad, and so she is kind of shamed away from their goddess's like temple, and she kind of has to apologize to the goddess, much like Shadowheart, where like Shar, or like the people that she's with, like they're like, oh no, Shadowheart, you're not ready for Shar's thing or whatever, you're not ready for it. Much like that, same thing with Hessa, where they're like, you know, you're not ready. You're like a disgrace to her right now. You need to do something to make her feel better about you. You need something to like reconcile with this goddess. And like Hessa just being like in this like blind faith, much like Shadowheart is like, I have to make amends with my goddess, la 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 la. And then things happen and she starts to question her goddess. which reminds me of like Shadowheart's story as well. So there's just so many similarities between Hessa's story in Hall of Smoke and Shadowheart's story in Baldur's Gate 3. So if you liked Shadowheart's story and her backstory and how devoted she is to this goddess, you might like this story as well, because it very much resembles that. The next recommendation that I have for you guys, if you guys enjoyed Shadowheart or you guys romance Shadowheart, is going to be The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. The reason why is because in this story we basically follow our main character. What is her name? It doesn't even say her name. So we follow our main character. She is the daughter of a emperor, and the emperor basically, when she comes of age, the emperor refuses to see her as the heir. Like, he's like, no, you're not ready for it. Much like Shadowheart, where she wants to prove that she is ready for this whole thing, she wants to prove to her father that she is ready to be the heir of the throne. She is ready to it. So what better way to prove her worth than to go on this adventure and like do this like forbidden magic called bone shard magic that has deadly consequences to prove her worth to her father, much like Shadowheart, and this like journey that she's going on that's like, oh, this is going to impress Lady Shar. So again, the storylines very much ring very similar to me in the form of like this person that has like a quest that's very important to them, and they're very devoted to making sure that they accomplish what they feel like they're destined for, and doing everything in order to prove their worth, even though other people are telling them you're not worthy or you're not ready. So that really reminds me of Shadowheart's story. So if you liked Shadowheart's story, you might enjoy The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. Anyways, you guys, that is it. Those are all the book recommendations that I have based off of your favorite Baldur's Gate 3 character companion romanced person. Let me know if you would like a part 2 where I do more, because I know there are a lot more companions, and I know there are a lot more characters. There are a lot more side characters, there are a lot more villains. Like, just let me know if you want more. Or what other recommendations based off of, I don't know, I could do anything. Book recommendations off of your favorite Demon Slayer character. I don't know. Your Dungeons and Dragons class, your Dungeons and Dragons race. You let me know what sort of recommendations you want to see, and I am down. I am down. So anyways, you guys, that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post, because I post twice a week, and I also post shorts throughout the week as well. And yes, I would love if you hit that subscribe button, and if you made it all the way till the end, put a little squid or like a little octopus emoji like the Mind Flayers. Put that. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Some book recommendations based off of your favorite Baldur's Gate 3 personality, her very being. You very well might enjoy. Like, you guys know who I'm talking about if you guys are watching this video. Astarion.